Today we are going to dive into Delano's Coffee Roasters, also known as DCR Coffee out of Washington. It started in 1992 as an espresso cart in front of the Sunshine Mart. This family business have put together their knowledge and passion into wholesale roasting at Summer, Washington as a recognized roaster with more than 1,500 wholesale locations serving Delano's coffee across the country. This bag is beautiful and is very complementary to what is in store for this coffee. And the beans, they look amazing. And the smell just hits you with a bunch of coffee, whiskey, oak barrel goodness. So let's get this grinder going. Ready for the pour over, and the smell is even more intense in a good way. Hit boil. It's important to have very good, clean, filtered water to get the best outcome for your coffee. Let's get this beautiful bloom looking at us here. Look at this. This looks amazing. I am so excited. Now let's make it rain. Let's pour in our cup, and from whiskey barrel and coffee to your cup, this is going to be an amazing adventure this Sunday. Cheers, y'all. Hello and good morning. Cheers. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. You know, trying this DCR coffee from Washington. It's amazing. It's my second year trying it, and it's just so welcoming in the winter. It's cold outside right now. It just snowed, and it's probably like 28. Might be warmer or cooler where you are, but for us, that's about our cold out here in Utah, where I live. So, hi, my name is Joseph McDonald, the founder of KILT BEARD CO, and welcome to A Cup with Joe. So every week I will showcase a new roaster from around the country, and I really have a passion for coffee and the whole ambiance of how a good cup can affect your emotions and really your senses and jumpstart your day. This month I will be sharing brews from coffee roasters in Washington, the great state of Washington, one of the coffee meccas of the United States. I think that's a good place to start. And then I will, sprinkle in some random topics and see where the discussion goes. So my take of the DCR coffee here, and this is amazing. A whiskey Rio, medium roast. I prefer light roast the majority of the time, but just how this one is put together, the complexity of it all, is really just welcoming. It's awesome. And so, like I said, this was the second year of me having their whiskey Rio, and it's a Guatemalan bean, which is designated as a medium roast. The Guatemalan bean is recognized for its moderate acidic and fruity flavor. It also interacts well with the oak whiskey barrel in this. It's really good. And I've tried many different infused types of coffees with bourbons and whiskeys and whatever else you could try to put on the labeling of the package. And most of the time the smell is there, but the taste just leaves after brewing the process. And from the opening of this bag to smelling it, to grinding it, to brewing it, the whole house smells like whiskey, but not strong whiskey, but whiskey barrels. These guys just do a phenomenal job. And straight to your cup, to your taste buds, and you get that oak staves deep whiskey taste and no alcohol, which, you know, it's already 8 o'clock in the morning, so hopefully it was a great time last night for many of you. And this is just a welcoming transition from maybe a late night last night, crazy night last night, into an uplifting Sunday way to start your excuse me, start your week. But the flavors are all there. The medium's not watered down at all. Obviously, you gotta make sure. Obviously, you gotta make sure that the ratio of coffee to water is right. I've tried it both on the drip, and I've tried it also with the pour over, as you see in the introduction. And the pour over is just fancier. You really retain more of the flavor, in my opinion. I also will go a step further. I personally think a French press is one of the ultimates, but that's just for me. Some people would argue a pour over is better. So yeah, however you want to do this. Excuse me. So however you want to do this bean, it's just perfect for you. And the whiskey real reminds me, and the whiskey real remains consistent throughout. The brew is amazing. Coffee is full body. The taste of oak is welcoming and present. Eventually, I would love to try many of their interesting coffees, like their Great White, their Anna's Private Reserve, and Ava Blonde. So, yeah, DCR coffee is amazing. Check them out. Never tried them before. It'd be a welcoming to taste to your cabinet, your collection of morning routines. And double thumbs up. Great job, DCR. I'm sure we will revisit you again. And yeah, on to the next. So, my coffee story. So I had my first cup of coffee just when I was there in the military, doing my military service in Europe. And this was when I was about 24. So just came back from the Middle East. We're all amped up on Red Bull and Rock Stars at that time. I don't even think Monster or any of those amped or anything was out yet at that time. And we were drinking like 4, 5, 6, 7 of those at any given day when we were out in theater there. And when we came back to Germany, where I was stationed, I went down to the city center. I went to go get a pastry, and this pastry was delicious. Or at least I heard that they had delicious pastries in this one particular cafe on the corner. It's kind of one of those rounded corners. You go this way, that way, but it's completely rounded. Kind of like you see in John Wick, where the Continental is also all rounded right there. It's really cool, but it was a cafe right there. And the name escapes me because it's been almost, I don't know, 14 years or whatever it's been, 20 years. And anyways, go in there, and there's this lovely smell. And I was like, this smells not like coffee to me. This smells like, I don't know, I'm going to say nirvana, but it's something beyond just smelling good. And I asked, what kind of beans are they brewing? And the guy said, first, here you go, if this is gonna be your first cup of coffee, this is the way you gotta take it. Black, espresso, and they were using illy beans. And I had no idea what illy beans were or anything like that. But illy beans is a staple in many high-end restaurants, cafes through Europe, throughout the world in general. We're really good beans. And I sat down, had my first sip with my pastry, and this thing was delicious. It wasn't too thin, it wasn't too thick. I had that kind of nice, even, I wouldn't call it a bloom, but a foam, a natural foam on top from the actual illy bean brewed as an espresso. I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but it was really good. And that's how my coffee journey began. So the other day I was heading to the state store, or a liquor store. In Utah we have the liquor state store. It's all the hard liquor is regulated by the state. I know it sounds like we're in prohibition times, but that's just what it is. So the state sells the higher end liquor above, I think, 5.1 or 2 APV or something like that. I'm not from Utah, but that's what I think it is. And as I was driving there, the song from Disturbed, The Sound of Silence came on, and I was just pulling in the a parking space, and when David Draymond just comes on and sings this song, just one of those songs that it takes away all your surroundings, and you get entrenched in the song and the words and the meaning of the song. And it just made me think that when he says that, "Hello, darkness, my old friend," I'm not a great singer, and and it just puts you back, like, your, I want to call it out of body experience. You just reflect on life and humanity and our interactions in general. And it got me thinking to ask, during this episode, what's one song that if you were pulling up to a parking spot or somebody's house and it just came on, what's that one song that if it came on and you listened to it, that you would not leave that vehicle until you finish that song? And why? And as I said, for me, The Sound of Silence and the message and the humanity of it all, how we interact as humans, it just makes me reflect every time I hear it. And sometimes I just close my eyes and just listen to the words and the sound and the sound of silence. So what is the song that would make you just stand still and listen to the end before you take your next action or you go into the house or your next stop? I'd love to hear it in the comments. Let's see what else. So I was scrolling through TikTok. I'm trying to get into TikTok, and right now it's going to be hit and misses. Misses as in not consistency. Where I'm trying to be consistent on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I was scrolling through there, and obviously the algorithm knows that I like coffee and beards because I own a beard company. And I was watching on TikTok, and it came up with the most expensive, one of the top 4 or 5 expensive coffees in the world. And I think it's called 𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐈𝐏𝐍𝐿 coffee, and it's made from partially ingested coffee cherries that the Asian I think it's called a civet or civet, has eaten and defecated, and it's also known as the civet coffee. The cherries are ferment as they transit through the intestines of the civet, and then are collected after being dissected with other feces. And the price per pound, $400, right? $400. Now this got me thinking. This is actually has had me thinking many years of my life, right? So I just wonder, who's that human who either, was different, lost a dare, or was so desperate for food or coffee that they told themselves, hey, this animal eats coffee beans. And you know what? Beyond that, when he defecates them, that we're gonna take those beans, well, those cherries, and then we're going to roast or whatever the process they did at that moment, and we're gonna put that into a cup of coffee and see how it tastes. Oh, and by the way, uh, it's amazing. I I just can't wrap my head around how that type of thought process happens. I mean, there are other things, right? Like, you know, so many people have caught a puffer fish and eaten it wrong and died from before we got it right. And I just, I'm always amazed how the trial and error and how we come across these, I hate to say treasures, because I can't say eating a bean or drinking a bean from some other animal's feces as a treasure, but how we get these things, I don't understand how we haven't figured out how to cure cancer yet. I honestly don't, or any other major disease, because if you can discover a delicious cup of coffee, which I've never tried this bean before, by the way. I'll say I tried it once, but um, how do you not cure cancer by by mistake? I just don't get it. So it's just one of those random things that came up on TikTok that I'd share. Do you know anything about this coffee? Have you ever tried it before? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, but it just got me into like who the heck would go through that process to say that cup of coffee or that being from the animal and the species is going to be a delicious food. So, anyways, yeah, that's just my rambling on right there. So, the other day, I was prepping for this. I like to try to add some personality to this conversation and coffee talk, beer talk, and whatever else between some current events. I'm trying to find current events that most people may not be uh, familiar with because I don't want to get those uh, everyday talking points across every news station or news organization. So I do go all the country to get some of these, but in London right now, they are banning the X bullies or XL bullies, also known as pit bulls. And being a dog owner myself, and my neighbor up the street who has a pit bull, this is a very disturbing, sad uh, way of punishing an animal, and especially a dog. And on December 31st, the beginning of this ban um, started, and in February, it's an outright ban. I believe it's in Wales. England and Wales will ban pit bulls entirely. They claim this is because of high-profile deaths and etc. like that, and uh, people may just let dogs be released on the streets, create even more larger danger, right? And I just don't understand where this thought process comes in, because at the end of the day, most dogs, unless they've been mistreated, trained to fight, or trained to be angry, or they have a disease, are very nice, cunning, they stay in their lane kind of animals. And that once you go down this lane, what's the next dog? Like I have a German Shepherd, and German Shepherds in the past have been known to be, I don't know, dangerous dogs. But what's the next dog that's going to be dangerous? And what's the next dog? And what's the next dog? And so on and so forth. And it just got me thinking that we don't hold people accountable as we should. And what I mean by accountable, if the dog is off his leash, you should be accountable for the actions of the dog. At the same time, if before you go to the extreme of banning a life, a breed, or a person's rights too, which I don't know all the rights in London, by the way, we're in America, right? And I don't see how you don't require like 6 months of training for the dog in order to purchase the dog or something like that. Like, I don't know how that works or how that would work. Just like hearing a concealed weapons permit, for example. That means you've gone through some kind of training to handle that weapon in the correct manner that it's supposed to be, so that there's a less likelihood of accidents happening and using it for the right thing. Just like a gun. Some of these animals, like a pit bull, German Shepherd, Rottweiler, dogs of that caliber, the working dogs, they are meant to be your companion and to be a protector at the same time. And this is just another way of us not holding people accountable. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this. I just think it's the wrong way to punish the many people who take care of their dogs, who love their dogs, and now they're going the other way, and they are punishing the many for the few, and ultimately, in the end, the dog or the animal, the life, is going to be suffering from this. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think this could happen in the States? I think it's a 20% chance something like this could happen, just because it seems like what happens in Europe or in England and countries like that, sometimes those start to trickle over across the seas over here. It may be a decade from now or 2 decades from now, but it seems some of those things tend to trickle over eventually. Every taste of you get that taste of that oak barrel. Really good. So another one, like I want to throw out there, that's coming out, and maybe you could be aware of it more, is cyber scamming. So this is a new criminal trend in which scammers will either extort vulnerable victims remotely, convincing their families they've been forcibly kidnapped or demanding some kind of ransom money. I've even heard from a representative of our government who was a victim of this scam also, where they called the father, he's also a lawyer too, and said that his kid was in prison, or excuse me, in jail, and that in order to get him out on bond, they'd have to call this number. So they call this number, etc., and then they, through the intricacies of tapping into the right numbers, and the person almost got this guy for like $10,000 for a bond. That his son was never arrested; he was not in jail, but they captured the kid's voice and they did AI a voiceover so that it sounded like he was calling for help. And this also happened here in Utah, and this was kind of interesting, and it's happening more and more. We just don't hear about it enough yet. And basically what happened in Utah is that so the scammers were threatening, I think the kid's name is Zong, I think it was, for possibly a month. And they were telling this kid, hey, if you didn't comply with their demands, his family would be harmed in China. So he is, or was, I'm not sure where he is now, a what's the word I'm thinking of? International student, the best thing I can think of right now off the top of my head. So he's an international student, and he ordered the kid to isolate himself in the woods and send photos to his parents, and that they would be watching him through his phone and various other means by hacking into his stuff. And his parents were so scared because these were all legit pictures of him talking, saying, I'm being held captive, that They got extorted for 80,000 US dollars for him to be released. And the authorities, through their own means, did find him eventually up in the mountains here in the Wasatch Mountains. I think somewhere in Heber, Park City. I could be wrong on that, but somewhere in that general area in the mountains, because right now that's where it's going to get cold. You're going to see snow up there at that time. And this is happening more and more. And, this didn't happen too long ago, like on Netflix. So Netflix, they have Black Mirror. Maybe you've seen a few of the episodes over the course of 3 years, maybe 4 years, where AI and the ability to capture a person's voice and overlay and impersonate someone is becoming even more real. And in this episode, the person or people were being watched through their video cameras on their computers along with their microphones, so that they could AI mimic. They know all their deeds and stuff. They capture the video. In this case, I believe the one guy was doing certain things on the internet, performing certain acts in front of his camera, that he used this to get, or the bad guys use this to blackmail him and to do various crimes. And they would do this to people to do various crimes in order to have this information or these photos or these voice recordings go away. So stay vigilant out there. And if it seems pretty extreme, if you get that extreme phone call, maybe hesitate about 5 to 10% of what you usually would, and just follow up on this or on the situation. Also, if you don't, I'd highly recommend turning off your cameras, turning off your microphones on your camera, which is your phone or your computer, whenever possible, just so you can keep your conversations and your privacy to yourself, because you just never know. You click on the wrong thing one time, and then somebody who's not supposed to will get into your privacy, and it could go the wrong way. So usually around this time, there are three. What was I gonna say? There's three environments that work for me to when I want to just have like my thinking spot, and they're kind of extremes within themselves. So first is the movie theaters, then taking a shower, and being outdoors, like fishing or observing nature or something with no distractions where I can just let my mind just wander. And I don't read much fiction as far as books go, because I enjoy using all my senses to engage into a movie. And I prefer books that are non-fictional, because I retain knowledge that I want to use to move forward in reality. But I like to have the movie to be an escape from reality, if that makes sense. But I think that many parents with children can agree that the shower is one of the most peaceful moments of the day. I got a couple of kids, and being married, there's not too many times you get breaks in the day where you can just have a moment to just contemplate some part of your life or something that's going on in your day or your week. And I tend to reflect on the most difficult or challenging obstacle going on currently, either in my life, but the day, the week coming up. And this is kind of where I get a lot of ideas. And one of the hard things for me is trying to capture those ideas, because you're in the shower, and maybe somebody's got a trick for that. I'm not trying to be too weird or anything with this idea or this thought, but trying to capture all these ideas at one time when it's a shower or water all around you is difficult for me. So, anyways, then the third one is the outdoors. For me, it can result in a total reset of certain aspects of my life, to forge new paths or break away from things that may be holding me back. I like to try to do this minimum 2 times a year, because it feels like throughout the year, your life's kind of, the pot boils, if that makes sense. And before it boils over, it's great to, turn down the heat and really reflect on what's going well, what are the challenges, what can you do, what do you need to break away from, what do you need to put all your focus on. And these are my 2 reset times of the year that I really try to plan out with a purpose, so that I give myself that reset, that reset with nature that I think all of us deserve and need. So, what do you do for your resets? How do you reflect on your day, month, week, whatever? What are some of the things that give you that peacefulness to continuing on from your day to day to advancing in a more positive version of yourself? I would love to hear that in the comments. I think it's a really cool thing to hear what some people do. I know one person, they just sit out on their deck and they have that sun shine on them. That's all they do, and just want their mind is clear. So, what is yours? I'd love to hear it in the comments. So, signing off, I encourage you to check out DCR Roasters. They really have their craft on lock. They know what they're doing. If they still have the Risky of Rio, grab it. It's going to be $20-ish well spent. I would get it in the beans, by the way. I'm a proponent of always getting the coffee in the beans and getting a grinder. In the long run, it's worth it. If you are a bearded man and are looking for a new product, or you know someone who has a beard and would like a gift for a beard, please visit KILTBeardCO.com, and your beard will thank you. So, thank you for listening on this first episode. We're going to get better at this. I'd like to hear what topics you'd like to hear about and what coffees are your favorite. What's your favorite cafes? And we'll talk to you next Sunday. Thank you. Bye.